Hi guys, James here, thank you for coming to watch, and today might be a controversial one, I'm not sure, but it seems to me that there have been quite a few videos recently going about suggesting that the Telecaster is the greatest guitar. Now, I'm not making this video just to be controversial, but I just wanted to dive into that for a few minutes and explain my point of view. Not that anyone needs to care about my point of view, but I do. So, you know, recently the Telecaster seems to be the sort of, dare I say, fashionable choice, which is odd because a lot of people don't think it's a very attractive guitar. I do personally think it's quite attractive. It's got some design traits that are perhaps now a little bit dated. It's sort of boxy looking. I think the headstock is sort of looks elongated and stretched a bit too much. You know, there's no sort of comfort grooves and things like a Strat, and it's not as ornate as a Les Paul. It's not as hasn't got as much presence as a thin line ES. It's a humble sort of guitar, and I think that's probably why it's caught a lot of people's imagination now. It seems to be able to do it all, and it seems to be able to do it in an understated way, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. And you know, nowadays when everything can be so technical and so technological, to go back to the beginning. Let me start by saying that my favourite Telecaster player is Josh Smith, and I think he's had a lot to do with what people are thinking about this guitar nowadays, because he is just an incredible guitar player. It doesn't matter which guitar he's playing, that's the thing. And I think that's my initial thought, is how can there be a greatest guitar? There can be a greatest guitarist, perhaps, although that's always going to be debatable, and there are so many styles of playing, and I think we're all richer if we just consider everyone who's good at playing their guitar as an influence if we like what they're doing. For me, if I could ever end up getting 20% of the way to the way Josh Smith plays, with that intensity, that energy, and that knowledge of the fretboard that he's got, that jazzy influence that he puts in his blues, then I'll be very, very happy. But is the Telecaster the greatest guitar? Now, I just watched a video where he basically explained that yes, it's the greatest guitar, it can do everything. He likes the longer scale length, and I don't blame him for that. I've recently started playing the Les Paul a bit more, and it's one of these things where we're it's an embarrassment of riches. You know, I feel spoilt to have a Tele, a Strat, two Les Pauls, a Paul Reed Smith, you know, and you sort of fit into the vibe of whatever you're playing. Now, when I'm playing the Tele, I personally prefer to play at this end of the pickup spectrum rather than that end, but a lot of people will say that that is the Tele pickup. You've got to love the single coil hum, of course. So the dynamic range on this guitar is incredible. I mean, it's the response at the lowest volumes. There are so many reasons, it seems, why the Tele could be considered the greatest guitar. It's the beginning of the electric guitar, really, with the Broadcaster, the Nocaster, the Telecaster by about 52. You had an instrument that revolutionised the way we think about the guitar. It allowed us to play at higher volumes without getting feedback. It was, for the time anyway, compared to those big jazz boxes, it was comfortable. It has great dynamic changes between the pickups. It's probably simple to make in comparison to others. It's quite primitive, really. You have these 3 sort of saddles for 6 strings. You only have 2 pickups as opposed to what would become the Strat, which has 3, and the controls are relatively simple and only require simple sort of routing. So in many ways it's simple. Pick a good piece of wood, cut it into a shape. You don't even have to worry about the back. The neck is just quite a simple, very rounded piece. It's quite a jumbo fat neck. And then get some really pretty hot pickups for the time. You can go from really warm tones in the neck pickup to something with a lot more sort of vibrancy. So just within those 2 very simple sounds, you have a completely different guitar. Turn the tone knob down and you can go for something a bit more. It's got beautiful warm tones. It's got those vibrant, very trebly, almost country twang. Well, definitely country twang you can get on here, which, you know, is not the thing I play, but it sounds great. Well, where am I going with this really? Because I came here to say it's not the perfect guitar and it's not the best guitar. Well, I'll stand by that because I don't think we should be calling out guitars as the best. I think we should be concentrating on ourselves in a way and using the instrument that most makes us feel alive and musical at that moment. Sometimes I just want to pick this up, and sometimes I just want to pick up that Strat, something else. But that isn't to say that this Tele can't do it all. It certainly can. Let's give it something else to play with. Not what the Tele's built for, but I think what makes it in some ways more versatile than a Strat, despite all the extra sort of controls on the Strat, is that it doesn't sound like a Strat. It's quite difficult to make a Strat sound anything other than itself, which is great for so many things. But this guitar, it can just sound like a guitar. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you need that. If this is the neck you're comfortable with, then this setup can give you almost any sound. I mean, if I just go ahead and pick up the Les Paul for a second. straight away to me, this does feel like it would be very hard to play any sort of lighter music, let's say. It definitely doesn't clean up as well as the Telly. So if I go for something clean. Now I love that sound, don't get me wrong, it makes me smile. But if we get the Telly with the much lower output pickups, we should be able to clean that up a lot more. Just to be fair, I'll put it in the bridge like that was. So, turned up. So you just have that versatility. You can go from sort of hot and it can have that clean, warm sound, and then you can quickly, with the tone control, so you just have a lower starting point in terms of output. So in that way, it's great. It's not got such a distinct sound that it has to be stratty sounding, which, you know, doesn't suit every type of music. You don't always want that colour of that bell-like tone. Sometimes you want a slightly flatter guitar sound that has more dynamic involvement. And this works so well. I'm convincing myself now that this is possibly the greatest guitar, and that is not what I came here for. I love this guitar a lot. It's beautiful to play. The sounds are always sweet and mellow and warm. But I wanted to come and say that you're all, not all, but you know, everyone's saying it's the greatest. You're wrong. Because how can it be the greatest? It was the first. It's got better since then, hasn't it? Things have got better, more versatile, more flexibility. But is it just that we're all craving something different, and in the end we've gone full circle back to the beginning because it wasn't really that wrong in the first place? Perhaps. And if you can play like Josh Smith, then it doesn't matter what guitar you've got, does it? And he can pick and choose. For me, the Telecaster shows off all my faults, probably more than the other guitars, because it's a relatively blank canvas sort of guitar. It doesn't have some of the other bells and whistles to show off your playing and cover up your mistakes. I mean, first of all, it's not the easiest guitar to play in terms of action and neck. It's beefy, it hasn't got very low profile. You know, it's not intoned perfectly, probably because of the setup there. And you have to really dig in. You know, it feels like I'm working to get everything out of it that I can. And talking of Josh Smith, by the way, as a little aside, I've got the new, not the new, I've got, for me, new, the Tula. Oh, apologies for the phone sound. Turn that off. I've got the Tula pedal that Josh Smith loves and that he says is indispensable to him. So I'm going to do a little video to see if that Tula pedal is really the magic button. Can that turn me into Josh Smith? Obviously not. But it'll be fun to find out. So, let me get back on track. What's wrong with this guitar? I mean, what is wrong with it? Well, as I've just said, it's not the easiest to play. It's quite primitive in control. That can be a positive or a negative. you know, simple bridge. Can't intone it very well. You can't play with the setup. It's quite a rounded neck. You can't play with the setup that low. It buzzes very quickly if you do that. It's got this elongated head, which you either love or hate, I think. I think it's not ugly, but I think things got better with other guitars. The Strat, for example, more attractive. It's not super comfortable. It's quite hard on the arm and the shoulder if you play for hours. And it's just basic. But boy, does it sound good. Just got me thinking as I was playing, it's the purest guitar feeling there is. You know, there's not a lot to hide your playing, and in that sense it's a great instrument for improving yourself, for trying to get better with your dynamics, for trying to get cleaner playing. It really is going to hide, it's not going to hide anything. It's got huge fret wires, this really jumbo, and it's got a high action which is not easy to change. So you know, I'm actually feeling a bit warm and fuzzy about this now. So I came here to say, well, it's not the best. It's just the cool thing to say that it's the best, and things have got a lot better. But then as I think about it, you know, the other guitars are all fantastic. I can make the same video about them. So it's down to your preference. If you've got access to all the different guitars, great. If you're looking for the one guitar, definitely give the Telecaster a go. Don't be afraid to be sort of basic in your setup when you first start, especially. To get something that plays so well clean and lead. And I think, you know, as you can see there, it goes from really soft, gentle, clean to taking the potential that your amp setup has and pushing it beautifully. So there we go. Perhaps not the most useful video in the end, because I've actually sort of come to the conclusion that at the very least it's a contender for best guitar, if such a thing can exist. And that any guitar player collector should have one in their collection is for sure. But anyway, if you enjoy Telecasters or if you hate them, please let me know down in the comments what you think. I have to say, sorry Telecaster lovers, I'm not going to say it's the greatest guitar of all time, because why? That's the question. Look, it's a mixed bag of things. There are so many things wrong and there are so many things right with this instrument, and it's one that I think will either capture your heart or not. And I think it is an emotional sort of an instrument. You know, it's not a tool for perfect studio recording. You know, it hums and it growls, it barks, it bites. But I think especially for the gigging musician who wants to have a bit of everything in their bag, the Tele is one of those guitars that can deliver so many different things. And also, you know, if you play a standard Fender Tele, like a Player or Ultra, whatever you've got, any town you go to and your guitar gets stolen, you can probably go and find one pretty quickly. So that's not a terrible thing. It's a ubiquitous guitar. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry I didn't rain on the Telecaster parade too much. I do love this instrument. It does have its negatives, and I'm going to leave it there. I love it. So anyway, If you want to see me make non-decisive videos again, please subscribe to the channel. I do make lots of other sorts of videos about gear, about playing, about the instruments, the amps, the pedals, everything. So stick around on the channel, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.